Before I do start this video, make sure to use my TCG player affiliate down below if you're looking for any of these singles that I talk about today. Also, this channel is sponsored by Arcane Fortress. If you're looking for the best deck boxes around, make sure to use my link down below in the description to check them out. One other way you can support the channel is by becoming a patron. There are some great benefits of being a patron to the channel, such as giveaways, deck advice, and more when you do join.
The world you play, I don't want to set the world on fire.
Hey, what's going on YouTube? This is Devin coming back at you with another video today on Pub Stomp MTG, and in this video I'm going to be ranking my top 10 commanders from the Fallout set for Magic the Gathering Universes Beyond. This one is pretty exciting for me because there's a lot of fun and interesting commanders that have a lot of different themes that I'm excited to talk about. And before I do rank these commanders, I do want to give you basically a summary of how I do rank these commanders. So I focus most of all on creativity and originality. I also do focus on power level, and overall it's going to be my opinion when ranking these commanders. You can let me know down below how wrong I am when ranking these commanders. But without further ado, let's dive into my number 10 spot. And I do have Curry Emergent Intelligence at my number 10. This one is pretty powerful, and plus it's all for 2 mana. Normally I don't gravitate towards monocolored commanders, especially blue commanders, but it does have a really good ability. Whenever it does deal combat damage to a player, you draw cards equal to its base power. It does have an activated ability of 1 and a blue. Exile another non-token artifact creature you control. Curry becomes a copy of the exiled creature, except it has whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw cards equal to its base power. So I do like this in many different factors. You can copy a big giant scary threat on the battlefield like a Blightsteel Colossus, knock somebody out, potentially draw 11 cards, repeat the process by knocking somebody else out, and draw 11 cards. Rinse and repeat until basically everybody's dead. Of course, that's a very specific scenario, and you do have to get the Blightsteel Colossus on the battlefield. An easier method is using Phyrexian Dreadnought. I know it's quite expensive, but honestly just proxy it. Mainly because this has amazing synergy. When it does come into the battlefield, sacrifice any number of creatures with total power of 12 or more, or bury Phyrexian Dreadnought. In response to that ETB, you can exile it to Curry, so that Curry becomes that Phyrexian Dreadnought without the downside of that ETB, so that when you do swing it away, you can draw 12 cards if you deal combat damage. And of course there's many scenarios like this where you could really abuse that and go for some commander lethal damage. Let's move on and talk about my number 9 card of the entire series. I'm going to talk about Dogme, Ever Loyal. I will be honest, I'm not a big fan of auras or equipment, but of course I cannot deny the power level of this card. It is pretty good. It does act as a great card draw outlet, essentially card draw, because you're making a junk token when you do attack, and of course the more creatures that you do attack that are enchanted or equip attack, the more junk tokens you can make to get that semi-card advantage. Plus, when it does enter the battlefield, you can mill 5 cards and then return an aura or equipment card from your graveyard to your hand, so if an aura was in your graveyard already, you can just put it back to your hand regardless. So this is a really good equipment commander. You could use equipments on any of your creatures. You don't have to focus on Dogmeat. Plus, of course, Dogmeat is a very cute and adorable puppy, so of course I had to give it my number 9 spot. But let's move on. Let's talk about my number 8 spot, and this one is another monocolored deck, and I was kind of surprised that it would move up here, and that commander is Rose Cutthroat Raider. So for 2 and 2 red, it does have first strike and the raid ability. At the end of combat on your turn, if you attack this turn, create a junk token for each opponent you attacked, and whenever you sacrifice a junk, you add a red mana. I was pleasantly surprised to see a lot of different monocolored commanders that work pretty well. Rose is a really good engine for your deck. Of course, you can play a play from exile theme with this, but what really struck me about this commander, it does everything you really want to do in commander. It does ramp you ahead. I mean, kind of pseudo ramp. When you sacrifice that junk, you will add a red mana. So if you did swing with 3 different creatures and you attacked each player, you will make 3 junk tokens. You could essentially kind of draw 3 cards by playing them from exile, and also add 3 red mana on top of that. You could also store them for a bigger play. Say for example you had like 9 junk tokens on the battlefield, you could just sacrifice them all to exile the top 9 cards of your library and then add 9 red mana. That's pretty insane. Plus, a good card in the 99 would be Reckless Fireweaver. If I wanted to give you some options, whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, Reckless Fireweaver deals 1 damage to each each opponent. So of course, if you attack with 3 different creatures on the battlefield, you will make 3 junk tokens and deal 3 damage to each player. So again, a very useful commander, giving you pseudo card advantage and also giving you mana. What more do you want from a commander? But let's party it up to my number 7 spot, because we have 3-Dog Galaxy News DJ in the house. This one for me has a lot of originality, especially for 1 red and a white. Whenever you do attack, you may pay 2 mana and sacrifice an aura attached to 3-Dog. When you sacrifice an aura this way, for each other attacking creature you control, create a token that's a copy of that aura attached to that creature. So in a weird way, this kind of reminds me of Zada Hedron Grinder, because you're focused on a go wide strategy, but buffing up all your creatures with the auras you do have attached with 3-Dog. Of course, what could be super busted in this deck, if you do plan on building this commander, is all that glitters with a bunch of cards on the battlefield. If you attach it to 3-Dog and you have like 5 creatures on the battlefield, you can swing in with your 5 other creatures, sacrifice all that glitters, attach all that glitters to all those creatures, and then all of them instantaneously get buffed, because all that glitters has that ability to buff it up for each enchantment or artifact on the battlefield. So that could be really ridiculous. And the nice thing about 3-Dog's ability is the fact whenever you do attack, you don't have to attack with 3-Dog itself. You can just attack with all your creatures, sacrifice that aura, and then buff up all your creatures that are attacked. So of course, a very cool and original commander that I feel like is a very interesting build overall. But I do have another dog on this list at my number 6 spot. This one is adorable and very powerful, and that's Rex Cyberhound. So this commander is pretty self-sufficient. Obviously, you want to focus on exiling creatures in a graveyard, but let's first read what it does. So for 1 white and a blue, legendary artifact creature dog robot, whenever it deals combat damage to a player, they mill 2 cards and you get 2 energy counters. It does also have the activated ability by paying 2 energy counters, choose target creature card in a graveyard, exile it with a brain counter on it, activate only as a sorcery, and Rex has all activated abilities of all cards exiled with a brain counters on them. So basically, this is just an Agatha Soul Cauldron commander, but I feel like in a way this does have some better abilities. You exile cards with brain counters. So for example, if somebody removes Rex, all those cards in exile will still have brain counters on them. So when you do recast Rex, Rex will still have those activated abilities because brain counters don't get removed. Plus with Agatha Soul Cauldron, it only focuses on creature activated abilities, while Rex Cyberhound, it just has activated abilities of all cards exiled with brain counters on them. So whether you count a land, an artifact, enchantment that has an activated ability, Rex can use them. So I love the design. I feel like it's very non-Azorius-like, which honestly, more brownie points for me because I'm not a big fan of Azorius in the first place. But let's dive into my number 5 spot, and I want to focus on Agent Frank Horgan. I really like this commander, mainly because the art is incredible. I love the suits. I wish we did get more characters in suits. I know that's not really possible in some circumstances, but Agent Frank Horgan is one example that I do like as far as our perspective goes. But this is a really good commander, even though the mana cost is quite big. It does have a great ability of trample and has indestructible as long as it attacked this turn, and it does have the simple ability of when it does enter the battlefield or attacks, it proliferates twice. I already made a deck tech on this channel about Agent Frank Horgan and all the crazy things that you can do with it. If you do want to go check it out, I'll post the link above here. But you can dive into a lot of different strategies because it's kind of open-ended. You focus on proliferation, whether you're going into a Super Friends theme, Infect theme, even a Saga theme, any kind of theme that focuses on some kind of counters, Agent Frank Horgan can be a good commander for that situation. But let's meditate and recharge ourselves because we have our number 4 spot with Liberty Prime Recharged. I will say my bias is showing a little bit more compared to the other cards in this list, but I just love mechas. I love the idea of big giant robots just doing big dumb things, and this absolutely does not disappoint. So let's read what it does. So for 2 red, white, and blue, all American baby, because that's what Liberty Prime is all about, being all patriotic. He does have Vigilance, Trample, and Haste. Whenever he does attack or block, sacrifice it unless you pay 2 energy counters. You can't pay 2 and tap it to sacrifice an artifact. You get 2 energy counters and draw a card. So there's other reasons why I do like this. This does have limitations compared to your normal commanders. However, 5 mana for a Vigilance, Trample, Haste with an 8/8 body is quite insane. Of course, it does have the downside of whenever it does attack or block, you sacrifice it unless you pay 2 energy counters. Luckily, it does have that second ability to get energy counters, and plus you get a draw card. So again, there's a lot of things going for this commander. I know it has limitations, but honestly, I feel like I'd rather have this kind of option instead of a super busted option, because if it just had Vigilance, Trample, and Haste, and it had that ability of pay 2 and sacrifice an artifact, you get 2 energy counters to draw a card, That'd be a little bit more boring, but because it does have that limitation, it makes it more of an interesting build. But now we're going to the big three. Let's focus on my number 3 spot, and this is of course Caesar, Legion's Emperor. This one is a very powerful commander that has a lot of abilities that you can utilize in your arsenal. You do have the color combination of Mardu to help support this build, but whenever you do attack, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, you choose 2. You make 2 tokens on the battlefield that are 1/1s that are tapped and attacking. You draw a card and lose 1 life, and it deals damage equal to the number of creature tokens you control to target opponent. So the main reason why I do have this so high is the power level. It is quite strong, and with the right type of setup and the right type of situation on the board state, Breath of Fury can be a combo with Caesar, Legion's Emperor. So again, there is a lot of things going on for Caesar. For the longest time, I kind of wanted to make an aggressive sacrifice strategy, and this kind of fits all right into it. But now we are going to my number 2 spot. This one might surprise a lot of people, but I find this commander so interesting, and that's Sean, Father of Synths. I don't know why I'm gravitating towards this commander so much, but it does have good abilities, so let's read what it does. So for 3 blue and a red, whenever you do attack, so you don't have to attack with Sean if you do have another creature on the battlefield, you may create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of a target legendary creature you control other than Sean, except it's not legendary, and it's a synth artifact creature in addition to its other types. I'll be making a deck tech on Sean sometime this or next week, and I'll be diving into some of the strategies you could be following, but honestly, there's a lot of different avenues that you could come across. Of course, the Legendary Matters theme is really good because you want to be copying legendary creatures. Of course, it does have the downside of when it does leave the battlefield, exile all synth tokens you control, but it does have some incredible scaling, especially with ETB creatures. If you do have a lot of legendary creatures that you could just copy that have great ETBs, you could just take advantage of them even further. Again, a really neat commander, one that I'm definitely going to be making a deck tech out of, and one that I might just brew myself because of the possibilities. So stay tuned when I make that deck tech because it's going to be pretty sweet. But now we're at my number 1 spot. This one is a very powerful commander, and I feel like it can't be understated with the Master Transcended. So for 1 black, green, and a blue, it's a legendary artifact creature, a mutant. When it does enter the battlefield, target player gets 2 rad counters. He does also have the tap ability by putting target creature card in a graveyard that was milled this turn onto the battlefield under your control. It's a green mutant with base power and toughness 3/3. So I do know this might feel simple, having the ability to just give 2 rad counters when it enters the battlefield is kind of there, but it does have that bonus ability to reanimate another creature that entered the graveyard and put it onto the battlefield as a 3/3 creature. However, it does have some applicability to CDH, being a food chain commander. And of course, you know me, I love my food chain combos, but it does have some other abilities. If you mill a Razaketh into the graveyard, you could just tap this to just put it onto the battlefield, use its activated abilities. Even though it's a 3/3, still you get the activated abilities of tutoring, and so that by itself makes it my number 1 card of the entire series. I know it's not as original as some of the other commanders, but the power level cannot be denied, and this commander is also going to be another one that I will brew on my channel, so make sure to stay tuned and see the deck tech if you're looking to make him in CDH. So with that said, that's going to do it for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and watching this video on my top 10 commanders of Fallout, the Magic the Gathering Universes Beyond set. Again, this is a very cool set full of thematic flavor and really good commanders that I kind of want to build myself, but I would love to hear from you in the comments. What is your favorite commander of the entire set? Again, thank you so much for coming by and watching this video. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. With that out of the way, thank you for stopping by.